Welcome into our overtime segment here at SportsSource.tv. We appreciate you joining us. I am joined by Bob Hodge, Josh Ward, VFL Daniel Hood, and Chuck Cavaleris down there. Overtime today brought to you see it on the screen. Overtime brought to you by El Chico's Cinco de Mayo party. Now, El Chico, we tell you about them. You see them on the show every week. So many Mexican restaurants in this town. You go here, you put a blindfold on, it tastes the same. El Chico's is different stuff. It's good stuff. I really like them. But Friday is their big Cinco de Mayo blowout, and let me tell you, it is the blowout in town. It gets bigger every year. Great deals on food and drinks, terrific prices on top shelf tequila and imported cerveza. A DJ, bars inside and outside, one of them under a tent. Closing time will be somewhere between 2 and 3. And
a.m.
A.m., yeah. So 11 a.m. till 2 or 3 a.m. the next day. If you've never checked out their Cinco de Mayo, do so. And if you're sitting there saying, well, that just sounds like a wild party, they've also got security on there. They got some cops are going to be around. So it's done right, it's done well, and it's done with a lot of fun. El Chico, check it out. Okay. I want to jump into the draft that we covered in depth during the show. But right off the top, the Vols had 6 guys drafted yesterday. Forgive me for reading. I want to make sure I get all this stuff. Vols had 6 guys drafted this week, but Butch Jones was still catching flack for it on social media and a couple of talk radio shows. I heard someone say that Kamara would have gone higher if Jones had used him properly. You can't say that and have any. If you've ever watched the NFL draft, you know that how these guys are used really, that doesn't matter. You guys, the Vikings drafted a receiver who caught, 8 passes at South Carolina?
Kamara went where he went because of his 40 time.
Who was the number 2 pick
His 40 time, and also, so there were some people that were concerned about his ball security injury.
Yeah.
And he has health issues. He's had some injuries.
Exactly.
I think all that matched. But the thing is, most people thought he'd be second round.
Yeah.
He dropped early third. That's not terrible. Money-wise, it's a drop. But in terms of the nosedive, nobody's sitting there in the NFL saying, well, if Butch Jones had Hurd in front of him, scratch him from the list. Yeah. I don't think that, that's why you see guys who are undrafted make these teams and why you see guys who are great that never make the team. It's not based on college. Like we're sitting there going, he'll be good because he was good in college. Not always. So I think that's a little misleading to say that Jones messed up Kamara's draft spot.
You could argue with an extra 100 touches over the last 2 years that some teams would have been more leery of taking Kamara because how much tread's left on the tires.
There you go.
And it's even like Mike Mayock pointed out, all he did was plug into Texas A&M tape. And he wasn't even really familiar with who Alvin Kamara was. And he's looking at this and he's saying, wow, this kid can play. So at least you have a tape, you have something you can show. And then it's all about how you do at the draft and how you do
those
on your pro day.
And your pro day.
It's your measurables.
Yes. I think another thing you know that too, Tennessee's got a great film guy, Joe Harrington.
Terrific guy.
And like Joe can actually tell you stories of guys that have got hurt their senior season that they've still got drafted for the simple fact that Joe's got so much film on it, he gives it to the scouts when they come in.
Well, that's where I was actually going next. Not playing didn't hurt Jalen Reeves-Maben. He got drafted. Nope. Cam Sutton didn't play the majority of the season. He got drafted. But anyway, people are beating up Butch Jones for that. They're also pointing out that he lost 4 games with 6 players who were drafted. 6 players drafted and he lost 4 games. That's unacceptable. LSU and Florida had 8 guys drafted and they lost 4 games. Michigan led the nation. They had 11 guys drafted and they lost 3 games. I get you shouldn't lose to Vanderbilt. Get it. South Carolina. But at the same time, these arguments are a little weak. And one of the ones that I thought one of the ones that I thought was remarkably weak, but I wasn't surprised when I saw who made it. Mike Tomlin was talking about Josh Dobbs. I tweeted out the video yesterday. It was on NFL Network. They asked about Dobbs. He gave the standard coach answer about a player. He works hard, good young man, smart, intelligent, wants to be coached every day, does this, does that. Did you catch what I said there? He wants to be coached every day. Somebody cut that out, that clip, tweeted it and said, this proves Butch Jones doesn't coach them. He's dying for coaching because he never got it at UT.
That's not quite right. He got coached every other day at UT.
That's right, every other day.
He coached every day.
And anyway, how did most Vol fans? I'm swimming in the pits of negativity.
Yeah.
We're talking Twitter and the deepest, darkest AM radio hole that you would need a huge antenna and wear a an aluminum foil hat to pick up. So that's the negative zone. In terms of most of all fans, the majority of all fans, how do they look at that? The draft. Do they say, wow, this is great, we're relevant again? Do they look at that and
That's
say,
exactly the word I was thinking.
or do you
of.
look at it and say, yeah, well, we should win some championships with this, which I think is fair? Or are they ticked off like the folks I'm hearing on Twitter?
A friend of mine who you know very well looked at this and said, you know what? Tennessee, most of their guys go in the 4th round. He said, if you look at where Tennessee, yeah, you were above average top 25 team last year. It kind of, to him, it matched up, and I agree with that. It sort of matches. You should have been 1 game better at least, but you should have been 10-3. And that's about the talent that I think they had. So I don't think it was like, wow, they had 6 guys drafted that had 6 first-rounders.
There you go.
Okay, now you got a problem.
Yeah. Thoughts? How are Vol fans looking at this draft? How do they gobble it up?
You know, I get the benefit of, I get to have a lot of friends on Facebook, Twitter, and everything, get to communicate with a lot of different people. And the stuff that normally comes back the most to me is, I didn't see one person say, you know, Kamara should have went here or anything like that. They were just happy for the guys, happy that Dobbs got it, happy that Sutton got a chance. Jalen Reeves-Maven, I mean, these guys are getting to change their life, to take it from A to B, or to take the next step to achieve their dreams. And I'd say 90% of the people that I communicate with, and that may be that I shield myself with just positive people, but but it just, and that's what it is, and that's what I'm appreciative of, is that they care so much about the team. They invest in the players for what they've done here. And I mean, let's be honest, it's what's allowed, you know, all the former Vols that come on to do what we do is because of their passion towards us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
the negative people will find you too, by the way,
Yeah.
Daniel. They're out there. But I think Daniel's right. I think the majority look at the players and say good for them. And happy for them. Then they say, well, good for Tennessee, that relevant word, that's good for the program. Then they'll transition to the recruiting side, maybe for the future. This is something the coaches can sell.
And you've just had a good week recruiting, too.
I think easily the majority of Tennessee fans say, hey, this is a good thing for the University of Tennessee and the people involved.
And after some of the years where you don't have anybody drafted,
Right.
And now and look at Cam Sutton. I mean, we know that he didn't play as much last year, but he came back when he was hurt. So you can't help but be happy for somebody like that, especially when you have all these superstars that don't play in their bowl games because they don't want to take a chance on getting hurt.
Kamara, too. Kamara came back and both those guys could have sat it out this
you
year.
have to be happy for him. Yeah.
I thought, in terms of Jones ruining it for Kamara, I thought it was interesting. We didn't get a chance to say it on the show, but Shaq Wiggins, probably the main reason he's coming to Tennessee is the sales job that Alvin Kamara gave to him, because they are close. And Wiggins has talked about how much Kamara has praised UT, the coaching staff, the whole thing. So I think most Vol fans look at this and say, cool, we're back to being relevant. Now let's go win some games. Now win some championships. Which I think is fair. I think there's a crew, however, that are a small crew where everything's sunny, and then there's a small but loud crew that wants everything to be miserable, and they will go through every nook and cranny to find anything miserable and try and turn you that way and tell everybody else they're sheep.
You can
but I
make
think
your
the
dreams
majority
come true if that's the way you are.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of all fans are looking at this saying, another step in the right direction. Now let's get to Atlanta.
But see, to use your analogy right there, is I think the issue we got, you know, as Vol fans and things like that, is you look at this group over here that you're talking about as negative is the loudest. I mean, why do you think Coach Jones has sleepless nights and he limit media and things like this? This group's the loudest. If we can get, you know, more people over here that are more vocal, more proud of your program, you know, supporting it and talking about it. And I'm not saying
I don't like
media.
the sunshine pumpers either. But okay, but a coach would.
I think well, I mean, not just sunshine. And I'm not. I mean, because I think I try to do the same thing and be fair. But when you look at it, there's so many great things. You know, you look at where we're on the rise, and with your chart you showed in the first segment, where you show,
the
you
ski
know,
slope.
the ski slope. The thing I'm curious about too is almost what it was. You know, probably in the '80s, transitioning up into that.
It goes up. We start at 1990 to 93, so we pick it up at the end of majors. But throughout the 80s, it built, and went to a pinnacle under Fulmer, and then it went down. People forget that.
And that's what I'm thinking, too, is that, you know, things like that are cyclical. You know, I think Coach Jones feels that. He feels that he's in that transition phase of moving towards that, and he knows what's coming. And basically, he's hungry for people to just say, trust it. Look at this. Here's how it's going to go. And so that's the we got to get these people being louder.
He's alive in the
wrong
wrong time of history.
Yeah, I mean, like Josh Dobbs going as the third highest quarterback ever in the draft.
Yeah.
I've said it before, say it again. If not for social media, he leaves here as a legend.
There's a
Sure,
statue.
because I
would
mean
agree.
that's the thing. Condridge Holloway in this day and age would be ripped to shreds because he didn't play on big win teams. Peyton Manning
Right.
would have been ripped to shreds. There were a lot of people talked about it at the time, but if on social media it would have bred the whole never beat Florida, couldn't beat Florida.
Happy feet, happy feet.
Happy feet, all that stuff. So it's changed. You're right. It has changed. Daniel, one thing you and I talked about before the show, you pointed out to me, Butch Jones, we all know the relationship with Mike Tomlin. He takes 2 Vols.
Sean Payton
Sean Payton.
talked extremely highly about him. Took a group of them to dinner and said it was the most impressive group he's ever been with.
Yeah, so I think that when you look at that, that's another positive for UT. I know that a lot of these NFL coaches, I speak for my team, the Patriots, you're going to get guys out of Iowa. Used to get them out of Fresno State, wherever Saban is, wherever Greg Schiano is. I mean, Belichick stocked the whole secondary. 3 of the 4 Super Bowl champion secondary last year were from Rutgers. And they weren't high on anybody's draft list except Devin McCourty. But Belichick was buddies with Greg Schiano, knew what kind of program he ran. That's a good thing for Tennessee if there are pro teams out there and pro coaches and GMs who say, we can mine this, we can drill down in this mine and get some players from the Butch Jones program.
Well, not just proteins, things like steady, solid proteins. I mean, you look at the Saints, same coach for a while. Steelers, same coach for a while. Reggie McKenzie at Oakland has been the GM there for a while.
Right, and just signed 2 guys on free agent deals.
Yeah, and so I think those are the things you look at is those are solid programs, and they're wanting stability. And they're saying, where can we get stable guys from? Tennessee's your answer right now.
Now, you could build a pretty good roster in the NFL just recruiting the SEC.
Let me go off topic.
You know?
Yeah, they set records again. They dominated in terms of how many SEC guys went first round overall. It's it hasn't fallen off. It's just last year everybody was kind of equal. I think it's going to be that way again this year. I think you're going to have a lot of fans across the league mad because they're all teams are all going to finish 8-4, 9-3, 7-5. I think they're going to beat the hell out of each other. Very quickly, let me go off topic before we go back to Tennessee. Talking not SEC but Alabama. Take a look at Bama's domination here. Most picks in 2017 they had 10. Florida had 8. LSU had 8. Tennessee had 6. Texas A&M had 5. Most first-round picks since 2009. 22. They've almost doubled up.
Wow.
Everybody else. Florida is 2009. Then you got LSU at 10, Texas A&M at 9. The mark there at Tennessee, there was supposed to be another side to that parentheses. That Tennessee is not 5th on that list. I just wanted to show you where Tennessee is. They had 6 in that period. But check this out. Cole Kubelik. I don't know that you can read this, but it's very interesting. There's a shot here of Alabama's defensive front. 5 guys. It's the 4 men in the front and a linebacker. And in this shot against Michigan State 2 years ago in the Final Four game, this week, those 5 Alabama players in this one shot went 17th, 31st, 49th, 55th, and 78th in the draft.
That's an
If you
NFL
wonder,
defense.
if anybody wonders, well, why can't we beat Alabama? That's why you can't beat Alabama. That's why nobody beats Alabama.
It's an NFL defense.
It's an NFL defense.
It really is,
And
All
a
right.
high-level NFL defense. Those are all
Yes.
mid-third round picks or higher.
And
in the
well,
NFL.
that's just it. First team with 7 players taken in the first 55. That's Alabama this year. First team with 9 players in the first 80. And there's Alabama. It's just like Kentucky in basketball. There's Alabama and everybody else. There's Kentucky and everybody else. It's cyclical. That won't carry on once Saban leaves. But for now,
it's carrying on pretty
it's
well.
carrying on pretty darn good. All right, this is what I want to get to, though. Back to Tennessee. For the Vols to start competing with Alabama, they're going to need to keep adding talent. Now, here's the thing. We showed the chart during the show where it goes down and starting to turn back up. If you get 4 or 5 guys drafted this year, okay, now you've got 10 or 11 guys in a 2-year span. It's been a long while since you started getting into that zone. Now, look, I'm going to put up a list, and some of these guys are going to say, well, I don't see this happening. But going into last year, I don't know how many people would have said, Josh Malone's going to come out early and he'll be a 4th-round draft pick. So I'm just putting some guys on here who, if they have a good year, could go. And it's a long list. Let's look at the offense first. All right, now your seniors are on the left. Brett Kendrick. You never know about linemen who's going to get a shot. Ja'Shawn Robertson, I think somebody will take a shot on him. Coleman Thomas, if he plays like he did 2 years ago, okay. Ethan Wolf, there are a lot of tight ends that get drafted. They take a shot on. Evan Berry, just for his special team skills, is going to be on somebody's roster. Juniors, you got Jack Jones, Chance Hall. I don't think those guys will be turning pro. No. Quentin Dormady, if he lights it up, I don't see that happening, but if he lights it up, grabs the job, he could go. John Kelly, he's a junior. He could go. Juwan Jennings, he has a big year.
Yes.
He very well could.
Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and
That
say
may
he's
be the
gone.
biggest
Yeah, he's
name.
gone. But you've got let's say Robertson. Does everybody agree they think Robertson
Right.
will get a shot?
Right, yep.
Right.
I think
Yes.
Ethan Wolf will get a shot.
2.
Barry will be somewhere somehow. He's
Right.
you don't set NCAA records with a return game without somebody giving you a shot.
Is Dormady Nathan Peterman at the same point in career at Tennessee? I don't know.
I would say Jennings. Right, that's 4 off the offense that I think will be drafted somewhere next year. Now let's flip it to the defense. All right, seniors: Kendall Vickers, Cortez McDowell, Justin Martin, Shaq Wiggins, Manuel Mosley, Todd Kelly, Trevor Daniel. He's going to get drafted. So let's say that's 5. Anybody else on that senior
Oh, I
list?
think Todd Kelly will get drafted.
Yeah, that's 6. Anybody else on that list that we see as a guarantee on the senior list? Okay,
Not a guarantee.
not a guarantee. So let's look at the juniors. If Khalil McKenzie or Shai Tuttle, with their histories, if they have some huge year this year, they could go. Jonathan Kongbo, Darren Kirkland Jr.
Definitely.
could go. Rashawn Golden, Micah Abernathy, perhaps. But you're looking at 5 or 6 guys
Yeah.
next year.
I think McKenzie could be even a higher level this year's Josh Malone on the defensive side because the 5-star talent is clearly there. Same with Jonathan Kongbo probably.
Right.
That if they have the productive seasons on the field to decide I'm going to go to the next level, plus McKenzie has NFL connections, I think he's a high-level guy.
Okay.
If he starts to reach his potential like Malone did this past
Well,
year.
that's a
That's a lot.
big, long group right
is.
there. And I was seeing yesterday, people saying, well, he's not going to have anybody drafted next year. What? Are you kidding me? There's going to be a lot of guys that people take chances on in
And
that
probably
list.
a surprise.
And yes, and some surprises that may not even be on that list.
Isn't Medley a junior, senior?
He is.
Let's see, he's got one of the edge too. If he improves his accuracy this year, I think he can make the case for
Yeah, I
a
didn't.
guy like that.
Yeah.
I
Good
know,
luck
that's,
with
I know that's not as much as the rest
Did you
of
see
some other
his
ones.
35-yarder at the spring game? I think
It's a spring
think
game.
it's still firing left.
Not a whole lot of kickers
He's
getting drafted.
he's got his work to do. He's got his work to
He's
do.
got his work
But
to do.
it's
yeah.
possible. Kickers, we've said this before on the show. If there's any position that can flip on a dime, oh, he's great. He's great last year, so be great again. No. And he's terrible last year, so be terrible again. No, it's kickers. Kickers and punters, you never know what they're going to do year to year.
And John, this tells me that not only does Tennessee need to continue recruiting very, very well, but you got to keep these players healthy and healthier than they have been if you're going to compete with some of these other programs that are getting more first-round talent and more draft picks than you are.
Well, the keeping them healthy thing, that
It's-
makes it sound like you think you're blaming the.
No, I'm not blind. I'm just saying that needs
think
to
some of
be
that's
something
luck.
that improves to be able to stay competitive, because if you continue having all these injuries, you're not.
Yeah.
I mean-
I agree with you. I think it's kind of luck, though. Now, again, as we've said, if everything was a muscle injury, a muscle tear, and a muscle pull,
Right.
I'd say strength and conditioning, but it's not. It hasn't been so far. Now, we'll see if how everything goes under Gullickson. Not out to a great start with all the people injured again. But you're right. I mean, you do have to stay healthy. There's no question, whether it's luck or work. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anybody want to throw anything else in here that we didn't touch on?
I'll
Your
make
Viking-
Chuck
you were
on
great
the
with the
other
Vikings?
things.
I'll
on
say
what
one.
needs to do
I think when you
later
look
on.
at
Another day. Save it for the summer.
All right.
And this may be, maybe I'm pumping some, but this may be why I love Coach Jones and what he's doing so much. We talk about, the best draft class they've had in a while. You talk about guys coming out. You're up 10 and 11 now. But even with that, what did the guy do as a leader at the end of last season? He said, you know what, our staff's not good enough as it is. Goes out and mates, a multitude of changes because says, I want to be here. Brings in Brady Hoke and all the other guys. Promotes Coach Scott, the offense coordinator. And I think you have to love those things that even though, there's so many positive things going in the right direction, things that he puts out all the time, he still said at the same time, maybe not to the medias, we really weren't good enough on the coach's side, so I'm going to fix it. That's my job as a leader. And I think as someone that's a business owner, and too, that's a tough decision to make to say, you know what, this guy's helped me for 10 years, 11 years, but at the end of the day, I got to win, and I got to do it for Tennessee, and so you're not in the path.
That's very true. I can't tell you. I mean, I'm a softie. I never fire any of these clowns. and they are softies too because they
Yeah.
continue to do charity and show up on my show.
Harley Daniel, he wants to talk with you.
Yeah, so, Chuck Cavaliers, Daniel Hood, Josh Ward, Bob Hodge, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6 for the Sports Source.